to another edition of the Sports Hit List. I'm your host, Carl Coulange, alongside my fine gentlemen here. Guys, welcome back for a new season. How was your summer?
Great.
Anthony, was good?
Yes.
Good.
England was a very nice place.
Nice place?
Nice place.
Greg, how was your summer?
It was good, busy.
Busy?
Yeah, but it was good.
Kenny, how was your summer, man?
Excellent, man. Had a great
Excellent.
time. Yeah.
And we have the returning Mike Miller is in the building,
Yes,
or
sir.
AKA Casper.
You can call it what you want, man.
Where you been, man?
I've been living, man.
You sure
Having
you
a
did?
new girl.
Congratulations.
God is good, man. I can't complain.
Greg's
man.
been asking a lot about you.
Okay.
I have been.
Hi, Greg. I'm here. Hi, Mom.
All right, so a lot's been going on. I wanted to touch upon this topic. We've done this before. Social issues. We had an episode 2 seasons ago about it, and we discussed athletes mixing social issues that's going on in the world into the sports. Now, as we see Kenny wearing the Colin Kaepernick shirt and representing for Colin Kaepernick, that's been the hot topic. And I feel like it's overpassing even the NFL season even started. For those of you who don't know, Colin Kaepernick has decided to not stand for the national anthem, and he in form of protest because he feels that blacks are being oppressed. What are your guys' thoughts on him sitting out of kneeling? First he's sitting, now he's kneeling for the national anthem. Let's start with Anthony.
Well, as somebody who also, for a while, I say about a year or so, maybe longer, who sat for the national anthem, I see no problem with it because I understand exactly what he's doing. I understand his plight, and I understand what he's trying to prove, pretty much that the flag represents, what do you call it, false advertisement.
Okay.
You know, freedom, brave, all this other things, but then in real life, you know, you have pretty much, opposite judicial system. Socially, everything is pretty much off whack. Nothing is balanced how it's supposed to be.
Okay, Mike?
I agree 100% with what Anthony said. And just to take it a step further, we've seen this before in our conversations, but just in sports in general, we've seen athletes take these social stances because there reaches a point in every person's life where sometimes things bother them in such a way where they feel like they have to say something or have to say enough is enough. And whether you choose to sit for the national anthem or whether you choose to, like the athletes in the NBA, and take the ESPYs as an opportunity to speak about social issues, you make that stance because you say enough is enough.
Greg, you're a big advocate on social media about oppression of African Americans, and how do you
100%.
You back him up 100%?
I back him up 100% because what he's doing is he's essentially making people uncomfortable. They live in a comfort zone where they don't want to acknowledge things that are happening in this country because they don't have to, because it doesn't affect them. And what he's doing is forcing them to see it. And I'm a big fan of consistency. Be consistent. If you're gonna be upset about Colin Kaepernick so-called disrespecting the flag, be upset of these unarmed individuals not getting their due process in court and getting gunned down in the street as if the cops are judge, jury, and executioner. That's my biggest problem. You're gonna say he's disrespecting the flag? How about these officers that take an oath to protect and serve, yet are here trigger happy and untrained and gunning down these civilians in the street?
Okay.
I want to, take what he was saying a step further by also adding, they wanted to throw the military into it. Oh, he's disrespecting the military and things like that. But nobody, where's all the advocates for as far as military and these benefits that they don't get about all the people who go lose limbs and fight, lose their lives, and they come back, just get a medal, and they tell them thank you.
Okay.
And these guys can't get jobs, housing, medical benefits and things. A lot of these guys have post-traumatic stress disorder and different things like that. They come back with a lot of things messed up, and they can't get the benefits for fighting for their country.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, excuse me. As far as the consistency goes, when a lot of times when you're having the discussion with people who feel uncomfortable about it, they like to throw back in your face, oh, well, what about Chicago? What about black on black crime? That is not the issue right here. What those people don't realize is there are measures in the community that they don't look into that are trying to combat that.
Right.
They refuse to acknowledge that because it sounds good. Ask people, when's the last time they used the term white on white crime? When's the last time they used the term brown on brown crime? These things don't exist. crime is crime, period. And I'm tired of the media using the term black on black crime to, degrade the black community.
Kenny, your thoughts? Well, you're clearly supporting.
I don't want to like say, oh, Colin Kaepernick, he's the man, support type of thing. Because when he first did it, I was like, wow. It made me stand at attention. I was like, all right. And then I was like, damn, I don't know if I'd do something like that. And then when they asked him why he did it, and then he gave a very poignant, a very direct, a very clear, concise explanation about what he was doing, I was like, okay. But it wasn't until the reaction
Agreed, 100%.
that made me really start to listen and then do my research on what Cap has been talking about for the last year or so. And stuff like that. So it was more like the vitriol he was getting, all these ex-athletes from Boomer Esiason to Drew Brees to I think the offensive lineman
Mike
in
Ditka,
Minnesota,
Rodney
Mike
Harrison,
Ditka, like
said
all
he
these
wasn't
people,
black.
all these people coming at him about the anthem, about the flag, about the military, but nobody's actually listened to the message of what he was saying.
Right.
And the more I kept hearing that, the more I feel like I had to support what he's saying because he was absolutely right. And then he's proven, not 2 weeks later, but it's funny, he didn't need to be validated 2 weeks later because he had a laundry list of names
The day after.
from this summer, last year, the year before that, decade before that, going back decades. You know what I'm saying?
Century.
So like you have names from people, I believe like Anthony Baez in the Bronx. You have Sean Bell. You have, there's so many names, and then people had the audacity to look at him and to act like he was bugging out.
Do you guys kind of feel like the media is responsible for showing these stories in a way to try to get an uproar? Like, I feel like they decide that they're going to show unarmed black men being killed.
So here's what I think.
And they're not going to show, like, do we know what the statistics are of black officers who kill whites who are unarmed? Is there a statistic with that? Does the media decide not to show that just to get us to uproar, to get people to have a reaction?
I think there's some validity to that. I also think that people essentially try to turn it into a race thing too quickly, but it's more a police brutality thing. That's the issue, because unarmed white people get gunned down too. It's not only black people. It's at a disproportionate amount, however, but it's all about policing the police, because obviously there's a disconnect there in how they police the community. So while I think the media plays a role in it, as far as how it's portrayed to society, I think it's more so about how the police react in certain situations.
Systematic racism is at the core of what Colin Kaepernick is standing up against. So while I do agree that police brutality is an issue, there are deep, like implicit bias is part of what's the problem with policing. So seeing a black body and automatically assuming the negative, or so the case in North Carolina where the man was sitting in a car, Keith Lamont Scott was sitting in a car, and they were looking for someone else, but they assumed he was the person, realized he wasn't, left, came back, and then started to proceeded to start questioning him, and then the dash cam came out that the speculation of did he have a gun or didn't he have a gun, but it's this consistent theme of black bodies being seen as a threat. So when you look, even with Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old, they thought he was 21. He's a 12-year-old. So I think
But you see, the thing you said is consistency. Now, Colin said he's not standing. Are we ever going to see change? Is he ever going to stand? To me, that's the question. That's like,
if we answer that question no, then it defeats the purpose of fighting. If we believe that there's going to be no change, then everybody should be quiet and just enjoy it.
But you see, to me, that's the thing, is that we're seeing this. We thought it was the end, but we saw one like 2 cases last week again. So him standing, where is the change?
Let me ask you a question. Are we better now than we were 50 years ago?
Absolutely.
So then we see that.
I mean, we went from the Jim Crow, but as the current we are here in 2016, We've seen all these cases.
Change doesn't happen overnight.
It doesn't.
Listen, if you're talking about over 400 years of oppression, there is no way that that's going to disappear in a day. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. Some of us will have to die because of it. Martin Luther King had to die. Malcolm X had to die. So we're in it for the long haul, but we have to believe there's the end result. If we don't, then it makes no sense in fighting anymore.
What he's doing is moving the needle, because now it's taking it from, let's say, your CNN debates and your MSNBC debates, and he's taking it from that. Now it's on your sports telecast.
The sports hit list.
You know what I mean? Now it's all the way in.
All right, so final thoughts, and as I said, we know it takes time for change, but does it mean Colin's going to be standing for another 5 years?
Sitting, you mean?
Sitting, I'm sorry. Thank you. Is he going to be sitting for another 5 to 6 years? Are we going to see more players take stand? What's the end result, and what are your final thoughts?
I think Colin's already determined in his head.
He's already gotten death threats, and he's already aware of the ramifications of what he's doing. So I don't see him changing his stance until there are some type of strides made at the highest of levels. And players from the NFL all the way down to the Pee-wees are going to follow suit, and it's going to be a part where this country is essentially divided on this front until there's some type of actual change.
Kenny?
I have two thoughts on the matter. As far as Colin is concerned, I feel like he's the perfect person to kind of bring this to light, or do what he's doing, because he's a mixed race person and he's raised by adoptive white parents. So he's lived in two worlds where he's seen the differences. So he's the perfect person to speak on the fact that there is, a quote, two different worlds being lived in by African people of color, not even just African Americans, but people of color, and white Americans in this country. So for people to kind of, I don't know, just like take what he's saying for granted and throw it away, like, why is he saying it now? Or, he's rich and he should shut up, he should just play sports, or he's not playing, or whatever the case, whatever excuse they do to kind of, belittle his points, they should really listen to it, because he's the perfect person to understand both sides of the situation. And the other thought I had is that people, it's not people aren't against the police. But we are against it when there's no accountability for what some of these people are doing. And that's the problem. There's no accountability. Nobody's up in arms about a legitimate shooting where cops are getting shot at. But there are ways. Listen, I grew up, I'm thinking cops are supposed to be like superheroes. They're supposed to be above morally, not even that. They're not supposed to be petty like criminals. They're not supposed to be deterrent. They're not supposed to be dirty Harry. They're not supposed to be running around just shooting for no reason. They're supposed to be held at a higher standard. And being held at a higher standard, that means you have to not react to every little thing. So if somebody backtalks you, that doesn't mean you shoot them in the chest. That doesn't mean you just take her to jail because she didn't have insurance card or something like that. And I guess my greater point is, the police as a whole are not bad, and nobody is saying that. But there needs to be accountability for what some of these guys are doing, because they're either not trained, or they're trigger happy, or they're just plain racist, or whatever have you. But something's wrong in that, and maybe it is a police thing, because we see in North Carolina it was an African American officer who shot him. You know what I mean? So, and people still protesting. So don't tell me it's because black people think that all white cops are racist. That is not the case at all. It's just we want accountability for the things, just like we held accountable for the things that we do that's against the law.
Criminals go to jail.
Criminals go to jail. People get tickets. Police officers should not just have a free range.
Or be honored, like the case of Freddie Gray, where they were honored today at a conservative gala for the killing of Freddie Gray. Or you shoot a man in cold blood in the case of Betty Shelby, and you have cops holding rallies for her, or people holding rallies for her.
Because it shouldn't be the person that got shot, their whatever record or character or whatever has nothing to do with them being shot if it was not a legitimate shooting. No matter what the case is. I don't care if you were slinging drugs all the time. If you don't have a weapon on you at the time, you should not get shot.
Or the case with a killed Gurley. He was walking in his stairway in the projects, and he was shot for no reason.
Final thoughts. We got to wrap it up.
All right. Well, my thoughts on it. I feel that it's not going to take that long because the reaction is telling me that he's actually struck a nerve and it actually is going to go somewhere. And the fact that others are joining in, as far as all across sports, from soccer all across the world, different things like that, people are joining in. To me, it's only going to grow and it's only going to get bigger, and eventually it's going to come to a head. It's either going to be, they're going to have to, combat it with taking the national anthem off TV. Don't show that part because everybody's either sitting
Also, what some of the
or
owners are
standing.
doing, are having the team doing the national anthem before the teams come out.
Yeah, and things like that. Like they're gonna like always, pretty much what I call status quo. There's gonna be different measures to combat what they're doing now, and then to me, they're just gonna have to take it to the next level, and it's just gonna keep growing.
Mike, final thought.
James Baldwin said, "To be black in this country and to be semi-conscious means to be angry all the time." What Colin Kaepernick is expressing is the anger of our community, the constant having to confront systematic oppression. And so until that gets addressed, take Colin Kaepernick's name out, put another name in. You'll see another situation like this. Until these issues are talked about like this, and they're addressed.
But not just us, though. We
Not just
also
us,
with
just
white people
everyone.
and people who are
Other
opposed to it.
community, yeah. Right.
And another thing too, I want to say, it's not just our community,
Right.
Because that takes away from the people from other communities, as
responsibility
far
of
as like the Hispanic community, the Caucasian community, who are also out there on the front lines with us,
Yeah.
and things like that, doing things and protesting and stuff. So it's not a race thing. To me, it's just a right and wrong thing. It's an accountability thing. It's a systematic oppression thing. It's not solely about race. The deep issue, yes, is race, but solely it's about people who want the country to be what it supposedly stands for, and then there's the people who wants the country the reality of what it is.
Right.
I have this, you have what we give you.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for that very so much thought went into this segment. I really appreciate when hopefully we pray for peace and there is a change. That'll do it for the Sports Hillers. Thanks for watching and continue supporting us here on social media. We'll see you guys next time.